Welcome to Amazing Indiana Music Stories.
I started in high school in 1957 playing drums, and I got a three-piece rock group together, which we performed called the Crowns, and we were doing record hops with Bouncing Bill Baker and Jim Shelton from WIBC Radio. And after that, we changed a few members and called our group the Sounds of the Crowns. And we played on TV show and radio show with Jimmy Mack. And and after that, I went on the road. I actually quit high school in my senior year, and I had 3 credits to make, and I decided I wanted to go on the road and play music, so I quit high school and went on the road and played with a group called the Five Checks, and we traveled anywhere from Ohio and Illinois and out to Kansas City, Missouri, and we were together for a couple years on the road. And after that, I came back after a car accident. We had a car accident, and I broke my wrist, and I couldn't play drums. So we broke up, and I went back to night school and got my diploma. And ended up meeting my first wife there. And so I played music every weekend, probably for almost the rest of my life, with different groups in some of the nightclubs here in Indianapolis.
So was your family musical? Did you come from a musical family? Or was high school the first time that you ever picked up an instrument?
Well, high school was the first time.
High school. And it was always drums. Did you ever play any other instruments?
I started out on flute in high school, but I didn't like it, and I switched over to drums.
And so that period of time when you were touring with the band, what do you have any specific memories or that you can tell us about? I mean, you played rock music. Why was that what you chose?
Well, at that time, that was actually what I want to call the birth of rock and roll. It was 1957, 58, and that's when rock and roll was really popular and taking over all the other music. So we decided to play rock and roll. And I ended up, one of the groups that I was with, we played in Terre Haute with singer Jackie D. Shannon. She had several big recordings later on in life. What the World Needs Now, I think, is one of her big hits and everything. And I worked with other artists like Bobby Helms and Barbara Mandrell, and just different musicians through my lifetime.
Wonderful. Who were some of your influences?
On drums?
Yes.
Well, there was a local drummer named Keedy of Keedy and the Cats group, and he was a tremendous showman. He used to be able to twirl his sticks and throw them up in the air and really put on a show when he played. So I was pretty, into him as far as what he was doing. As far as popular drummers, Gene Krupa at the time was big, and I always liked Gene Krupa and Buddy Rich.
What are some of the bands or what's the music that you listened to that influenced your style?
Back then? We listened to Elvis Presley, I guess, and Gene Vincent. Not that that's the kind of music that I like that well, but because my favorite is soul music. I like soul music and R&B. But back in those days, was the kind of music that was popular, so that's what we played.
And so you don't play drums anymore. At what point did you stop playing, and what did you do after that?
Well, the last the last show that I played was with Art Adams, and we played in Las Vegas. And I actually played on the same bill with Ruth Brown. I got to meet Ruth Brown there. And I came back off from him, off the road with him, and decided that I just didn't want to play anymore. So I sold my drums, and I got into photography. I've always been a little bit into photography anyway, so I got into photography and tried to do some historical stuff as far as photographing local musicians like Jimmy Cole and Pookie Johnson, and trying to keep the music alive for the future. So, and I wrote 4 books altogether. My first book was Indy's Heart of Rock and Roll, and it was just basically on rock and roll musicians from Indianapolis and Indiana. And after that, my second book was Let the Good Times Roll, and I did that with Mark Shaw, and he's a big writer now. He's really got some national books that are really big, and but anyway, he was my publisher, and he kind of got in with me on this one. And then later on, I had a book out on Art Adams that I wrote and helped Art sell them. He sold most of them overseas in England and Spain. So they didn't last very long. And then the last book I had was Reaching for the High Note, which is basically a different edition of Let the Good Times Roll. It's added more entertainers, more musicians. And that's about it.
Did you grow up in Indianapolis, and have you been here your whole life?
No, I actually was born in Bedford, Indiana, and went to Needmore grade school down right close to Bedford. And I moved up here when I was a teenager to Indianapolis.
What are some memories you have from the Indianapolis music scene that stand out?
Well, I have a lot of musician friends that really were very good. Some of them are no longer with us anymore. I can't. There's no one in particular that I can name. But local music was always good.
And you're known in Indianapolis as a historian of music. When did that start? And, how did you do the research for your books?
Well, this started actually in the 90s. I started doing more photography and photographing, and I actually lived in the Fountain Square Theater building for a year. The person that owned the building, Went Calvert, gave me a studio and a live-in area on the 3rd floor right below the bowling alley. And I got to hear the bowling balls going down and hitting the pins every night. But I started doing photography there, and I started inviting musicians to come in just to do photographs. I didn't charge them anything. I just wanted to take their photograph for historical reasons. And I got like Jimmy Cole to come up. There was Jimmy Cole, Pookie Johnson, and David Young, all 3 popular jazz saxophonists from Indiana Avenue. They came up at the same time, and I did photographs of them. And then I started doing some of the rock and roll people and some CD covers. I did a lot for Kathy Morris. She used my photographs on some of hers. And Jenny DeVoe, I've did photographs of her, and she used, I think, one of hers for advertising. So basically, I just really wanted to keep Indiana music going, so that's why I started doing that.
What is it about photography that you really enjoy?
I think it's trying to be creative. I take photographs, but I also try to do a little creation sometimes when I do photographs. Sometimes it doesn't work, but sometimes it does. So that's what it's all about.
Talk about those creations. What inspires them, and what are they graphic designs? How do you make them, and what do you envision them being used for?
Photographs. I do a lot on Photoshop, and I go in and take other photographs and put them together and try to make it look different and exciting. But and like I say, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. It's all a part of being a photographer.
So you were talking about some of the Indiana Avenue musicians. Did you hang out at any particular clubs or remember any specific shows that you can tell us about?
Actually, in the 60s, I was playing with a group called the Martin Baker Quartet. And we were playing jazz and in the nightclubs here in Indianapolis. We played at Menardo's and Dan T Supper Club, places like that. And we ended up playing on the Avenue. We played in the Cotton Club one weekend only, on I think it was either Friday night or Saturday night. So I actually got to play on the Avenue for one time anyway. Other than that, we used to go to the clubs and listen to some of the music. You know, I got to hear Wes Montgomery and playing in a bar on 30th Street, and there was a couple of nightclubs on the Avenue that would open all night. And when our band would quit playing at night, we would go over there and have a drink and listen to other music.
Tell us what, in your view, made that scene so special.
I think it's because it's part of Indiana music history. I think that's why it was really special.
The music industry has changed quite a bit over the years. So I'm just kind of curious, like, what's your perspective on today's music scene compared to what it used to be?
Well, I'm really a big fan of the older music, mainly because it seemed like the older music had more of a melody to it. Even the rock music had more of a melody. And today, now I like soul music and R&B. I don't really care for rap because to me there's no melody in rap. That's just my opinion, because I know a lot of people like it. But I think music these days, I don't listen to them that much. I listen to the old style music. When I say old style, I love the 70s. Well, it's soul music, and I like disco because it was soul. So, and I'm not a big rockabilly fan. Don't tell Art Adams that, because we're good friends. But I don't really care too much for rockabilly.
So from the days when you were playing drums, what do you miss most?
I think I miss the fact of being on stage in front of different people and being able to try to be creative on the stage in what I do, and kind of watching the people and their expressions. It was a big part of my life. Like I say, I've played music ever since 1957 all the way up to the 90s before I quit playing.
And it sounds like you've mentioned several styles of music. You've rock and disco and rockabilly and jazz. Do you have a favorite style of playing or a favorite group that you played with?
I think I enjoyed the group that I played with on the road, the Five Checks, because we not only did vocal harmony, but we did some comedy routines, and it was like a show group. So I think that was probably my favorite group.
So it was more of like an entertainment show. What kind of things did you do?
That's been so long, I can't remember now. But we did top 40. We did what was performing at that time, bossa nova, I think, and then there was rock and roll stuff that was out, Stevie Wonder, and that sort of thing. But a variety of music back in those days.
Tell us a little bit more about how you're active currently in the music scene.
Well, actually, the only way I'm in the music scene now is by doing books and photographs of, like I say, for musical history of Indiana, Indianapolis and Indiana. That's basically why I'm involved in it now. Although I still love music, so I still listen to a lot.
Do you go to a lot of shows? Where do you like to go listen?
Well, when I do go, I go to the Chatterbox sometimes and listen to different jazz groups and the Jazz Kitchen. I've done the Jazz Fest every year. I was photographing ever since it started. I think it was 1999 was the first Jazz Fest, and every year I would get a press pass and go in and photograph different entertainers. I got to photograph Dave Brubeck and like I say, James Brown, plus a lot of local groups that formed there too. I got to photograph them, so I always enjoyed that.
What advice would you give to someone who wants to get into the music industry?
Well, since I've been out of the music industry for so long, I wouldn't know. So I don't really have any advice other than try to be as original as you can. Originality, I think, is really what people want. They want something different.
Have you ever written any music?
Actually, I wrote a song called "If We Were Gypsies," which I recorded on a CD single. It had 2 songs on it and an extended version of "If We Were Gypsies." And I wrote that song actually for Kathy Morris when she was on tour in Japan. And while she was gone, I wrote that song. And when she got back, she actually played on the recording and played violin on the recording. And the vocal part was done by Mike Berry, which is a group that I was with. We played a club in Greenwood called Bob's Midway. And we were there for 12 years, every weekend, every Friday and Saturday for 12 years. And Mike Berry was the singer there at that time, and so he recorded this with me. And I played drums on it, and of course it didn't really do anything, but still, I got to do it. Another recording that I did too, I produced a recording with Cynthia Lane and Lita Essex at the time. It was a duo recording. They did the first song together. Then after that, they did all single. Cynthia would do one, and then Lita would do one, and it was recorded. And I'm really proud of that recording because it's so many musicians came in and performed on that, including Frank Glover and Clifford Ratliff. All their names slip my mind at the moment. But it was to me, I'm very proud of that recording. I used all my money from my retirement to do this. And I was hoping to get it all back by selling the CDs, but it didn't turn out that way. But still, the experience was good enough for me.
Where did you do those recordings? Can you tell us about that process?
Yes, we did those at, I don't know if you're familiar with Gary Walters, the piano player. He used to have a recording studio. And I actually did both recordings in his studio. And he helped with the music arrangements on the Cynthia Lane, Lita Essex, and we kind of did those together. I gave him the idea, and he actually knew the music and was able to put it down so the musicians could follow it.
Do you have any concerts that you attended that really stand out, that made an impact on you? And maybe tell us who was playing, where it was, and why.
Ones that I performed in, or just ones that I went to?
It can be either. Anything.
Yeah. Well, the ones I performed in, I was really proud of the one with Jackie DeShannon, because she turned out to be such a big star in the future. And at that time, she was only about 16 years old. She was very young. But she was one of the headliners at the show. And our group didn't back her up, but we backed her up on the sound check. She came in actually while we were doing our sound check, and so we backed her up on the sound check, but another group backed her up on the show. But it was, I enjoyed doing that. And I enjoyed doing Las Vegas with Art Adams, mainly because I got to meet Ruth Brown. She was a very nice person. I gave her a copy of my book that I had just came out with, and she hugged me, gave me a big kiss, and gave me an autographed photo, of course. So I think I enjoyed the Vegas show, even though that was probably my last
show. You earlier you had mentioned a documentary project that you're working on. Can you tell us more about that? Well,
it's actually a documentary on the last book, Reaching for the High Note. And we're filming interviews, and actually we're getting ready to be nonprofit. And it's going to take a long time for this to be finished. We were hoping to get it done in a year, but somebody told me the other day that they did a documentary. It took them 5 years, and it may take that long on this one because it takes a long time to get it together. But we're working right now on doing a trailer so that we can be able to show it, to be able to get the nonprofit to help us, 501c3.
And so are you interviewing people for that? How's that process look?
Well, I think we've got all the interviews done, and we're going to do as far as live interviews, but we're going to use a lot of photographs and recordings, and we have some videos tapes from the past that we're going to use sections of in that. The first book I did, there was a paper called The Alternative here in Indianapolis. It was an entertainment paper that came out, I think it was monthly. And I went to their publisher I had the idea for this book, Indy's Heart of Rock and Roll, and I wanted to show the local entertainers, because I got the idea from a writer named Norm Knight, who had a book out called Rock On, which is very popular nationwide. And I got the idea from that. So he said that if I would write a column for their paper until the book was ready to be published, that he would go ahead and pay for it, and I could pay him back if I wanted to. So I actually wrote a column for them. I think I wrote 6 or 7 articles on rock and roll, in Indiana music. That's where I got my writing start. But the Norm Knight, who has that national book, he actually did my foreword for my first book, which I was exciting to do, because he was such a famous writer, and he was a DJ from New York, which was very popular.
What's like your proudest moment from your career? What is something that you've accomplished that you're really proud of?
Well, I would say my books, and I'm really proud of the CD that produced with Cynthia Lane and Lita Essex. It was very well, I think, very well put together, and I'm proud of that. And like I say, I really enjoy photography, and I've did photographs of B.B. King in his dressing room at the Murat Theater. They were going to give him an award, and they talked me into going down to the dressing room and photographing him getting the award, which I did, and got to meet B.B. King and shake his hand and talk to him. And I was in there with my camera, and I said, "Do you mind if I just take photos while you're just talking to all these people and everything?" He says, "Oh, just go right ahead." He was a very nice person. So I enjoyed meeting B.B. King.
What musicians have you met that stands out? You said B.B. King. Are there others?
Well, I got to meet Barbara Mandrell. Actually, we got booked in the same club at the same time, and they were on the road and we were local, so we decided to go ahead and let them play since they came out from out of town. They got mixed up, and it was Barbara Mandrell and her sister, I think it was Louise Mandrell. So I got to meet them, and that was good. And I just so many local people that I've met. I think I'm really proud that I can really mention him as like Keith Phillips of Keaty and the Cats. He's a good friend of mine. We're still communicate back and forth together all the time. And of course, like I said, I got to meet Jackie D. Shannon and Bobby Helms. We played Bobby Helms Club, and I got to back him up doing Jingle Bell Rock and all that stuff. And it was just a lot of time, but it was mostly, I think, local musicians that really entertained me more.
Great. I guess I don't have any other like specific questions, but is there anything that you haven't shared with us that you'd like to tell us about your music life or anything else?
First of all, I've got this poster. It's done in 1959 of a club we played, Gosport, Indiana. That's a big city. But it was a good show, and it's a rare piece of material. And I've got photographs of my first group that I was with. Called the Crowns, and there were just three of us at the time. I don't know if you'll be able to see these or not, but only recording we did was we did an instrumental version of Ghost Riders in the Sky. I don't know if you ever heard that song or not. It was like a Dwayne Eddy type thing, and we were really proud of it. And this guy had us record it and put it on tape, and he was going to go out to California and see if he can get somebody to put it on a record for us. And he went out, we never heard from him, and 5 or 6 months later, there was another group came out with Ghost Riders in the Sky. They just stole our instrumental version of it. It was exactly the way we did it, but we kind of lost out on that. And then I went on the road in '63 with this group called the Five Checks, and one of my favorite groups. Had a lot of fun on that show with them. Got to meet June Cochran, Playmate of the Year and Playboy, and she was married to our bass player. She actually was dating him at the time, but they got married. So I got to meet her, and she was a very nice person. And then probably my last group that I played with, other than Art Adams, was a group called Sassafras. And we were doing like Chicago type tunes and that sort of thing. We had three horns and fun group. And disco. And we were always in the disco in the 70s, so we got our shirts alike and had a lot of fun.